Welcome to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we figure out how to build products and recover from burnout. I'm Benedict.
And I'm Brian. Each week, we'll give you an honest peek into our lives as we figure things out. Today is March 16th, and I am feeling motivated.
This is episode number 82, and I'm feeling confused.
Oh, no.
And that's solely because of daylight saving and Europe switching in.
Yes.
I think it's in 2 weeks, and the US switched, and Russia isn't switching at all. So
it's just all over the place.
It's all over the place.
It's all over the place. Yeah, I had a moment of panic Sunday night, like laying my head down on the pillow, and because Legos in Denmark are, our calls are early in the morning for me, 6 a.m. typically, and so I was like laying down and just boom! Oh my gosh, is it 5 a.m. or 7 a.m.? Because I mean, knowing from talking to you CET has not switched yet.
Yeah.
And I just completely panicked. But the great news is that now that, at least for the next couple of weeks, that 6 a.m. call is only at 7 a.m. It's great.
That's nice.
It's really nice. It's really nice. But it does mean that it bled over into our call here, and I was 5 minutes late. And you were wondering where on earth I was. So apologies.
I was just assuming that maybe I got the time wrong.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right.
That was a total possibility.
Yeah. In your head, Brian's just wandering around the kitchen making breakfast for the kids for school, and we'll talk in an hour.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure. And I have another call coming up sometime after this one, and I'm not entirely sure when. We'll see.
What would it take for the entire world to come together under a common cause, and get rid of daylight savings time once and for all?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
a miracle, I think.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Yeah.
What would it take for all of humanity to get all of bureaucracy together and do a thing? Track record not looking great.
No, not at all.
What's going on? Besides time zone confusion? What's happening for you?
Yeah, feels like a lot of small things are happening these days. I want to say one of the exciting things, but it's about taxes, so I'm not entirely sure how exciting it actually can be.
So exciting. Are you kidding me? We're talking about taxes for the entire hour?
Yeah, of course. I could learn a thing or two from you.
Seriously doubt it.
So I mentioned that we switched the accounting service we've been using, and now we're working with a new team and a new CPA and a new bookkeeper. And now, like, preparing our tax returns got a lot more complicated, or even like a lot of more work is involved for me, because suddenly someone's actually looking at the details and like figuring out stuff that isn't quite right, or maybe where we have to double check something, or where we have to provide additional documentation. And one part of me is like, oh, why do I have to do this? And the other part of me is like, yes, finally someone who actually knows what they're doing and is actually caring about the details that I don't have a clue about. So while it's a little bit more work, I'm super excited to be working with someone who actually takes this seriously and checks the numbers and is very detail oriented, and that feels great, to be honest.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you're like, oh, I don't want to do this, but future you will be proud of you. Yeah.
I hope so. at least future me won't have any problems with any of this in the future.
Right.
Because it looks like, and even though I try to check as many things as possible, like even in previous years, and like be as accurate as possible. But it looks like there are still some issues. Like the new CPA found some had some questions about previous tax returns that I don't have good answers to, at least not yet. So yeah, maybe.
That's great. Yeah, no, it'll help you get those things answered and documented, and then it's
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, that's happening. Kind of didn't really plan for it, but obviously, I mean, tax season is in full swing. So didn't really plan for it, but now I have to take care of that stuff as well.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's work, but it's kind of good to do this now, because figuring out this in like 5 years
gosh,
or so will be a nightmare.
mhm. Bookkeeping is just not my is not my wheelhouse,
Yeah, I
but
mean, I actually had some bookkeeping and accounting education in school for like
yeah,
2 or 3 years. And that's helpful. These like now that I'm running businesses, it's
mhm,
actually helpful to know some of the
yeah,
basics. But
yeah,
it's still not a lot of fun. Like
no, it's
going
not
through all transactions, or as like you just looking through all the expenses of 2020 took me an entire Saturday morning last week.
mm,
So yeah.
yeah, yeah, I am not looking forward to our doing our taxes next year because this year we will have rental income off of
Mm,
our house, which is not our primary residence, but is our only residence. Also, we sold a bunch of Bitcoin. Also, my home office is going to be on the road. Like, what
mm,
are just all sorts of things that are just going to be
yeah.
different questions. But I mean, I think the Bitcoin thing is simple enough. It's just like multiple things going on of yeah, categorizing and setting some taxes, some payments aside, and
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
oh well, whatever. I'm more than happy to pay taxes to support our infrastructure. I just wish it were easy
Sure. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
file it. Yeah.
Did I mention my German business, kind of my solo practitioner entity,
Mhm,
whatever,
mhm.
is audited this year, or was audited, or
No
is in the process of being
way.
audited. Um, and that was like I still haven't heard back from them. Like I'm not entirely sure. Like, did I pass? Is everything in order? Like,
Yeah.
are they coming up with lawsuits or whatever?
Oh my gosh.
Um, but that was quite an experience as well. I mean, luckily, like because of COVID and stuff like that, they didn't want to visit and like look through all my documents in
Mhm,
person.
mhm.
So mostly my accountant handled all of it. But they had some weird questions. Like, I mean, in a way, I'm kind of relieved that they had weird questions, because I assume that means they didn't find anything
There's nothing glaring.
obvious.
Yeah, yeah.
But like,
Oh,
yeah,
man.
they
Oof.
reviewed like 3 or 4 years of like tax returns and books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in the early days, I was still running, like, basically using my personal bank account for all of the stuff. So they started asking questions about, who's
Mhm.
this Katrin person who's paying you rent every month, and where's the contract for that, and stuff like that. And, uh,
God,
sometimes it feels like, why?
I know. It's so stressful. There was one year that Laura and I, so we had a joint investment account. It wasn't an IRA, it was like we have or which is a retirement vehicle
Hmm.
in the US, but, so it wasn't that we had a separate, joint additional, investment fund that we were putting money into, and we transferred it from one company to another. Um, and so when it transferred, I mean, that's a withdrawal, a full on just withdrawal of
Hmm.
all that money. And we put every cent of it into a different account with a different company to be managed differently. And 100% my fault. I did not report correctly to the IRS that when we withdrew that money, we then deposited it into an
Hmm.
identical vehicle. And so, sometime in the summer, I get like a 65-page thick folder in my mailbox from the Internal Revenue Service that's like, "You owe us," however many thousands of dollars. And all this stuff, just like we're gonna be. And I freaked out. Like that's like the last thing in the world you want to see. Fortunately, we're able to get it all sorted out. Just show some documentation, and everything was all good. But for 2.5 weeks there, I was not sleeping well. Like, great,
Yeah,
IRS is
yeah.
coming after us, but it's just so much like not the sort of thing you want to get wrong ever.
No, no,
Yeah.
definitely not.
So I've never done my taxes myself again from that year on.
Yeah, like what's funny is like I did I didn't do like since I started freelancing or like being independent, I didn't do my tax returns by myself, but I did all of my bookkeeping.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at least for until a couple years ago. And interestingly enough, like when they requested this audit now, they basically wanted to see like everything since the day I used the accountant and the bookkeeper.
Mhm.
And
Uh,
my only suspicion is like that the
huh.
transition wasn't like super smooth. Like as I said, like it was using my personal bank account, and there was
Mhm.
some back and forth until we had like my initial books imported in their software
Mhm.
and stuff like that. So I
Right.
guess it's a little bit wonky, and they wanted to get a closer
Yeah,
look.
make sure it's all good. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, hmm. Yeah, I would love to hear from people like who uses a bookkeeper, who uses a CPA for I mean, yeah, for tax returns. Hopefully everybody is hiring somebody to do their tax returns, but on a month-to-month basis, are you hiring a bookkeeper? I feel like for me, I don't hire a month-to-month bookkeeper because my consulting business is such low volume that there's just not a lot to keep up with.
yeah,
So, I don't but I could be missing out on benefits I'm not aware of, and
yeah. Like I used to do all, as I said, like I used to do all of my bookkeeping until the new VAT
yeah,
regulation
yep,
was introduced, and then suddenly it became so complicated.
really complicated, yeah,
And there was a software update from the accounting software that I was using back then,
yeah,
and I wasn't able to figure out how this is supposed to work anymore. And that was the point where I decided, okay, this I was spending a day every month just like trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing, and in the end I'm still
yeah,
making mistakes. This has to go.
yeah,
Honestly, by now, like now that I'm just working for userlist, it's a lot simpler again. I'm kind of considering to go back to doing it myself, but
yeah.
also uh maybe not the wisest use of my time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, complicated,
Yeah.
complicated.
Well,
What else?
anyways,
Yeah, what else you
that's
got?
that's the exciting stuff that's been going on, and more boring stuff like I've been doing some software development.
Oh,
So we made some good progress, or actually, like the user and company profiles are basically done. I think I have like two small things I need to fix, and that part is ready to roll out.
okay.
I have to admit that I went a little bit overboard with other things that I refactored in the process as well. Um,
You didn't go
so
overboard, you were in the zone, Benedict.
yeah,
Positive
yeah.
language.
I was
But
in the zone and fixed a bunch of other stuff.
yeah.
Um, which I mean, you could argue that it was a waste of time because like it didn't really change anything in the UI, but the code is in much better shape now, the front end code, and
Yeah.
was able to like rip some old stuff out and
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
fix some issues that were not not big problems, but like small things here and there that just
Yeah.
didn't work
Yep.
right.
Yep.
So that's exciting. I still have to do some testing this week because, as said, I touched a lot of things, so I have to make sure that I didn't actually accidentally break signups or anything like that. Um, but yeah, other than that, I think it's ready to roll out. So that's
Sweet.
that's nice. Yeah.
That's really cool. It's big.
We also introduced a new icon set, which sounds like a small thing, but
Oh, no. No.
yeah, we had like we spent I think we spent a week or so last year just like fixing our icon set or like
Mhm.
how we use icons throughout the UI. So
Mhm.
it was relatively easy to swap out the icon set. Um, and the whole reason why we did it is like the old one was just too small. Like it had
Too
like
small in terms
three
of not enough
not
icons
enough
to choose from in the
icons. Yeah,
library, right.
it had like
Yeah.
200, 250 icons,
Yeah.
and it was like it was hard to find one that actually fits. So
Yeah.
we are now using Font Awesome, um,
Uh-huh.
and that's like a huge library of like
Massive.
every
Yeah.
possible thing you can think of.
Mhm.
So I'm excited about that because that finally gives me some icons that I was previously missing. And not, it sounds like crazy, but like it feels like it also unlocks some features that we couldn't properly do because we didn't have the icons for it. So yeah, that part is cool. Like I'm looking forward to this to
That's
make
good.
use of this a little bit more. The other thing that we did was there was a discussion in Mega Maker about like email marketing tools and like just like yeah lifecycle messaging tools.
Yeah.
And someone mentioned user list, which was nice. And then in that conversation, someone was like, "Yeah, but like, is there a way to disable tracking? Like, I don't want to. I care about privacy, and I don't want
Yep.
to like clicks and opens, and don't want to spy on my customers."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Yeah, it's not possible to do this right now, but it's one of the things we want to do eventually. I do it as soon as someone asks for it." And then in that the conversation went on and was like, "Yeah, I'm asking for it." And I'm like, "Okay, will you become a customer if I build this?" And she was like, "Yes, yes, I will." So I built this last week. It wasn't a lot of work because we had the basic setup already in place. It was merely
Mhm.
like adding database fields to store like your setting and your configuration, and then like expose it in UI. And now we have it. Like you can now go to the settings and disable click and open tracking. Um, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
someone suggested
Nice.
I should probably tweet at DHH.
Yeah.
Could be a good marketing tactic. So yeah,
That's
um,
awesome.
that's a small thing. And then the really exciting thing that kind of also is a small thing because it wasn't that much of work is um, I think it was yesterday. Peter Zoom reached out to me and asked if like how far along we are with like the marketing features that we're planning to build.
Mhm.
Because he just announced this new project, reform.app, and was looking for a tool to put his marketing email list into. I was like, yeah, I don't like we don't have anything built yet, but let's make this work. So, and then I spent a couple hours yesterday basically removing the identifier limitation that we had, where you
Okay.
have to send a user identifier for every user.
Yeah.
uh, Removed that and enabled that feature on his account, and now he sent user list first marketing
Wha
broadcast earlier today.
wow. Okay.
So it was a
That's
lot.
pretty amazing.
It's a little bit of a
Uh,
hack, to be honest.
w
Like,
well, so, I mean,
yeah,
like, user list can send marketing emails.
in a way, yeah. If you send me a CSV file
Yes,
with your
which is
email list, we
totally
can
doable.
we can totally do it. Um, So yeah, I mean, but it's step one, I guess.
Yeah.
We have someone who's actually using it,
Yes.
and
Yep.
it wasn't that hard, to be honest. Like the API now supports like sending in users without identifier, just with an email
Mhm.
address.
Mhm.
There's no way to update those users ever again. You can't match them to customers. Uh, but I guess that all of that is coming as
W
soon as Peter needs
yeah,
it.
I was going to say, there's no automated way to do it.
Yes, I mean
You
you
will
can
be
always
able to,
go in
yeah,
there.
of course, right. And this is are you is this will be related to the So, like global unique identifier project that you are also trying to like where you have an ID for a customer record that could come from the app ID, from their email address, from some segment ID. Like, when you
Yeah.
build that part of it, then it'll all come together automated or
Yeah, I guess, like, I mean, right now, like, we don't have anything else but their email address. So in a way, then their current identifier is their email address, and now we need a way to, once you send it that email address and the user ID, we have to like figure out, oh, we already know about his email address, so it's probably that user we're talking about,
yeah,
and then like merge that together.
yeah.
Um, and I did some work on that a couple of weeks ago, so I
Mhm.
have a rough idea. Um, and as I said, like as soon as Peter is ready to onboard customers inside his application, we probably have to build this. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it's pretty amazing to have you all have decided a product direction, and now you have somebody on that track that you can prioritize feature development for a live customer.
yeah,
Way
yeah.
better than yeah,
And it was kind of the thing that convinced me was that like he's very early on in the journey as well. Like
yeah.
we had a couple other people who asked for this and we like, yeah, I want to use this. And but like they all were like further along the journey. They had a product and a marketing list and they needed like all of the features right now. Whereas Peter is like starting from scratch. He only needs this one particular thing at this very moment.
Yes.
So it's a
Yeah.
lot easier to like get started with him and his relatively small set of requirements and then like add stuff here and there when he needs it or before he needs it,
Mhm.
ideally before he needs it. But it's like we can do it in small increments instead of having like to build a lot of things at once to be able to just support this one early customer.
Solid. That's exciting. That's really
Yeah,
exciting, man.
I'm excited as well, and we didn't really plan for it; it just happened. Um, but I guess it's progress, and some outside pressure is also helping to keep this like
Yeah.
moving forward.
Just enough. Just enough pressure.
Yeah.
Anything else
Um,
going on over there?
the only other thing I did last week was so with the company stuff nearing completion, we have to update our documentation again to like outline the new APIs we have for this. And in the process, I was like, I'm not entirely sure how our API documentation is embedded in our knowledge base right now because it's essentially a big long article that I wrote at this point a couple years ago. Um, and while it has all the information, it feels like it's not super parsable and not like super developer friendly. And it also only touches on like on on the surface of like what the API actually can do. Like
Mm.
it's super flexible, but the API documentation doesn't really talk about that because it just like outlines one use case and that's it. So last week I've been thinking about like how do we go about this? Like I wanna show what this thing can do and how flexible it is a little bit better, but I also want it maintainable and I don't know. It's just yeah, I don't know. A better documentation than what we have right now is what I want to have.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, maybe I should look into the Open API spec, which lets you basically define. Yeah, it's a spec for defining a spec for your API.
Okay.
So you basically write a big long YAML file that describes like all of the endpoints you have, like the what data they accept, what the responses look like. It allows you to model like your models in a way, like the response bodies you're sending back
Mhm.
and forth. And it started like writing an API spec for our push API, and in a way, it's pretty cool. It wasn't that complicated, but like the documentation that you can generate from that still isn't mean, it kind of works, but it's also because the API is so flexible and it accepts like multiple different like data schemas and whatever, and like optional stuff, and you can nest stuff and things like that. Like the generated API is kind of, or the generated API documentation is kind of wonky.
Yeah,
So now I'm
like it's actually easier to just outline and write it yourself rather than try to.
yeah. It would be nice to get like a some sort of middle ground, so I don't have
Mhm.
like do all the formatting myself and like be sure that everything is consistent, but also just using the spec probably doesn't cut it either. So it's, I don't know. I don't have a good solution yet. Um, anyways, I was kind of excited about the Open API spec because it, in theory, also allows you to generate API clients for different languages and frameworks and stuff like
Huh?
that. I gave it a try, like with one of the generators, to generate like a Ruby library from that, and honestly, this is not something I'd ever dare to publish. uh,
Hmm,
yeah, I don't know. It, it sounded more promising in the beginning than what the results are looking
that's too
like.
bad. Yeah.
But I have not
Mm.
fully given up on it yet. So maybe there's some middle ground, and maybe I can use the spec to maybe generate part of the documentation. I don't
Yeah,
know,
there you go. Yeah. Use it like as it creates an outline for you, and
and then
maybe
fill in the blanks or
you
something
pop
like
in and
that.
fill in the
Yeah.
blanks. Yeah. Yeah. Well, good luck. Hey, can you hear this phone alarm going off in the background on my microphone?
No,
Okay,
nothing.
good. My kid's phone alarm has been going off for a solid 12 minutes right above my head, and it's driving me
Great.
nuts. But
I remember staying in a hotel. Like I
it's
was
okay.
on a business trip for work, and in the hotel, like the hotel had like very thin walls or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my upstairs neighbor had an alarm set for like 5 a.m. And apparently he wasn't in his room when his alarm went off. So
Oh
it
my
was
god.
ringing for like half an hour at 5 a.m. in the morning.
That's not pleasant. That's
No, it
not pleasant.
isn't. Anyways, yeah, that's basically everything that has been going on in the last couple of weeks
Great.
on my side. Like, what's
Cool.
new with you?
Let's see. So last week, so Graham and we made some pretty big, or finished, I would say, finished some big revisions to the game, to Backpack, that we'd been talking about. I think I talked about them a couple of weeks ago here. Um, and so spent some time getting that into the rule book. We played through it. I think we've played through it twice now. And it plays much tighter. It's still, it still feels a little long, and it's just so hard to know, is that because of Tabletopia? Is that because of trying to play it online? Or will the decisions take this long sitting down at it, on a tabletop as well? And it my sense, it sure feels like it's slow because it's digital, and it's just harder to look at multiple things quickly when you're having to zoom around the screen. So anyway, if anything, doing it on Tabletopia so much early on is forcing us to really be sure that the game plays tight, and that's only going to make it even better when we do get a physical version. Um, but it already plays much more. It feels much more succinct. It plays much tighter and shorter now. Um, and so we confirmed that all the setup, the graphics, and everything, all of the card descriptions are uploaded. I spent some time on the rule book documentation. Um, uh, and so now we're going to start rolling it back out for some more managed play testing, and completely and blind play testing to start getting that feedback. So we will, you know, we will see at a certain point being able to say, okay, from this point forward, the changes will be, you know, fixing typos, making card descriptions a little more clear, but the game is ready. Like that, I'm itching to get to that point, and I don't know if this is that round or not. Like, we'll get through 10, 12 play tests and see what sort of feedback we get. Because I would love to be able to say, okay, cool, we're going to continue to revise it, but at this point, let's get a quote and let's run a campaign, or let's get a quote and let's pull some money together. How do we want to do this? But I would love if we could get to that point before the summer, but we will see.
Sounds exciting. Like sounds like you're close. Did you ever like do the paper prototype thing? Like,
The very first versions of the game were paper prototype, and
mm,
we like hand wrote cards, like sat down, played it. Um, and that was really, really helpful to see, okay, yes, there's a germ of an idea here. This is legit. This could be fun. Um, and so what's the best way for us to be able to like do to run fast, like to make more iterations faster? Now let's take it digital. That
yeah.
makes it easier to do play tests. And so it's like figure it out. Is there something for this on paper? Yeah, totally. Okay, let's get it into Tabletopia, play it a bunch,
Yeah.
and now then extract it back out of
Mm.
digital into a physical version.
And are you planning to just like go ahead and print it, produce it, or are you planning to like another paper prototype to figure out like how does it feel with the new pacing and stuff like
So
that
that
on paper?
Yes. Right, so that would be the point at which, if this round of 10 to 12 play tests comes back, um, like, very, like, pretty good, as opposed to good with a lot of suggestions, um, then that's the point at which we'll probably say, "Okay, now it's worth reinvesting the time and materials into a paper prototype, and
Mm.
but let's go ahead and say, okay, at this point, we are ready to move forward with trying to get a campaign together, while in parallel we work out the kinks, on paper."
Yeah, that
Is
makes
kind of
sense.
where is pretty much where our head is at,
Are you
knowing
set
that.
on
Good.
are you set on doing like a Kickstarter campaign or
No, no, we're not set on that at all. Like, the upside of the upside of Kickstarter is if it funds, cool. Like, that that answers a lot of questions. Downside of Kickstarter is the world is just riddled with horror stories, of campaigns that actually successfully fund and then utterly fail the designers, because of fulfillment problems and miscalculating shipping and just all the junk that goes into it.
Mm,
And so the alternatives are, to fund it ourselves, to get 500 copies printed at 20 bucks a piece and keep them in our garage and try to sell them one on one through a website. That's one option. The other option is, in parallel with running a Kickstarter campaign, is to pitch it to publishing companies and see if somebody wants to pick it up and license it and take over development and fulfillment. That's a long
mm,
shot for a first time designer.
mhm. Um, like one thing that I'm wondering is like Kickstarter campaigns. Like, admittedly, I've never run one, but from the outside, the successful ones they look like they are a ton of work in itself. Like
Yes,
just
there.
getting it feels like to be successful, you need some insane level of like production quality of like a video and like even the
Mhm.
prototype you show off and stuff like that. It,
Yep.
it needs to be really high quality.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if it's like,
more work.
even worth
Yeah,
doing it, like, if
yes.
yeah, if the
So
chances are high that it will not succeed, then maybe not don't spend the time on it.
well, so the high, the high visibility Kickstarter campaigns with like $100,000 funding goals and
Yeah.
15 stretch goals, and they end up raising 500,000 or $1 million. Like, yes, those are full-time jobs. Um, we need, 500 backers at $35. You know, like
But how do you get the visibility? Like, I
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that part would be difficult. That part would be like we would need to create enough buzz and reach
yeah.
out, et cetera, et cetera. An unfair advantage we have is that Graham is a wedding photographer, and in
Mm,
our D&D group, there are two like extremely talented videographers, um, and like shoot, NFL football players, weddings talented. And
nice.
so we've got an unfair advantage there in terms of, do
Video
we need to
production isn't a problem.
yeah, right. So that video production is not a problem. Getting people to pay attention to it is. Um, so, we have a few unfair advantages. They don't solve everything. It's like they play into it to the point where it's like we're not starting from 0,
Mhm.
and we're not going to put ourselves in a position to need to raise $75,000 for the project to be successful, for the Kickstarter to
Sure.
fund.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but it is definitely why I feel very strongly that we do not want to do a Kickstarter campaign until we feel like we have the game, like,
mhm.
pretty well fleshed out. Because Kickstarter campaigns where it's like, "Hey, we have this idea and here's a visual and we'll ship this, in 18 months." Like, that's so annoying to me. That's just like
Yeah,
fancy,
yeah,
pre-order, as opposed to we have put in the work. This game is ready. We have hundreds of hours of development and playtesting into it. What we truly need is to kickstart the
yeah,
funding to produce it. That's what it's
yeah,
for, in my opinion.
yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
so yeah,
Do you get,
best
like,
best case
when
scenario best case scenario though would be we start to get some traction on Kickstarter and a publisher
yeah,
decides to pick it up instead.
yeah,
That would
that
be
that would
the
be
way
nice.
best thing. Yeah, yeah.
Like, is there, like you mentioned that, like, you do a run of, like, already 500 copies or something like that.
Mhm,
Is there
mhm.
like, what's the minimum on, like, order size you have to do?
500. Yeah.
500?
Yep.
And
Yep.
do they include, like, preview copies or something like that?
Yes. Yes. Yep.
But you probably have to, like, pay a certain amount upfront and then get a preview
Yeah,
and then
and
decide to
it's surprisingly, like, not, a huge obstacle, like, it's not like hundreds of dollars. It's, $80 for a pre-production preview.
Oh,
Um, especially for us because our game does not have any custom miniatures, all of our components are standard sizes, like, every
mm,
component you find in our game, you'll find in other games, like little cubes, little wooden meeples, standard sized playing cards,
mm,
and hex-shaped cardboard tiles, like, we're for a first game, we lucked into the idea that we did not come up with any ideas that are outside of standard component
mm,
parts, which is
okay.
really great.
So that means, like, your first like, okay, maybe not your next prototype is a self-made printed prototype,
Yes,
but then the version after
yes,
that, like, you could order a proper copy
yes, that
that
is
also
right.
looks nice on video.
Yes, no,
Okay,
exactly.
yeah, okay.
That is exactly right. That is it. Yep. This
Okay,
one
that sounds
we will
much more
print out
reasonable then.
ourselves, then we get 1 or 2 or 3, printed, built at $80, $70 each, so that
Mhm.
then we have it, share it, have 1 copy that we're mailing around to people. We each own it. We each have a copy, and then at that point, we would the next stage after that would be full on production.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds like much more doable than, like, jumping from nothing or a homemade prototype to like 500 copies.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Much, much lower risk there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you could probably even pre-sell these, like the preview copies for like 80 bucks or so. I bet some people would be up for giving it a try at that price point.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, gosh. Yeah, it feels tantalizingly close. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we are so close to being able to have a physical version of a game that we came up with and designed and played, and it is fun to sit down around a table with friends and family. It is so close, but, like, it's that final percentage push.
It's 90% done.
Yeah. Yes, for the
Collectible.
next 8 months.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, yeah, so that's what's been going on over there. It is yeah, I guess I just wanna just to affirm, like, how fulfilling it has been, and, like and that this whole thing started with, I'm burned out. I am fully burned out on my full-time job and on trying to create a sustainable side project that will become my full-time job based on my current skills. It's where this all started. Um, and it has been very, very successful and effective, in that regard. There's no part of me that has, like, delusions of uh, delusion is probably a little bit of a strong word, but we watched Star Wars the other day. Um, and so, of thinking that I will be able to make an income from being a board game designer one day, like, that is just so freaking difficult to do.
Yeah.
What is realistic is in 5 years from now, might there be 2 or 3 titles out there with my name on them? For sure, and that just feels so, like, it scratches this creative itch, it feels fulfilling, it does all of these things that now I am noticing there are just these parts of my mind that are opening back up.
Mhm.
That's like, "Okay, I'm gonna listen to these, 2 or 3 knowledge project podcasts back to back and see how might I apply that, either going back to Headlamp or pivoting Headlamp or rethinking another idea." Like, I can feel this margin in my brain, in my mind, opening back up. So, it's so fascinating to observe. I mean, it's hard to observe because I'm inside of it, but to notice it. So I just
Yeah.
wanna offer that as encouragement to anybody out there who has been enjoying listening to this, like, different part of the journey here. Um, that, yeah, if you're feeling burnt out, don't push through it. It you yeah, step back from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's good advice, yeah. I'm mostly pushing through it right now, but
Well, do you feel truly burned out? Like, to the point of exhaustion and depression? Burned out?
I think I no, I'm not sure how to say this in English, but, like, I think I got lucky and, like, was able to get the curve in a way, like, not, like, drawn in full on burnout. I feel like I
Mhm.
recovered a little bit. Um,
Uh-huh.
I think I'm still dangerously close, but at least it doesn't feel like I'm descending into it as much as I was, like, a couple of weeks ago. Um, just because, like, everything, like, work is calmer overall, um,
Yeah.
and I don't feel as stressed all the time, and that already helps a lot. So
Yep.
I guess I'm good. But on the other hand, I don't feel like I have the time or the possibility to do, like, something totally unrelated to what
Yeah,
I'm doing.
right. Yes, that's fair.
So, yeah, as I said, like, it feels like I still have to push through it or, like, just keep
Mhm,
going,
mhm.
because, like, stepping back would be like giving up and basically, yeah, quitting everything, like
Yeah.
Now I've got
which
to
is
go
weird.
back to consulting, which also doesn't sound like a good idea,
Yes.
or like not doesn't necessarily sound like it would help anything.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you are totally right. In your case, stepping back from it would actually not solve the problem. There are so it but what feels common in our cases, though, is the need to be honest with ourselves about where am I right now? Like, how close to burnout am I? How close to exhaustion am I? Am I depressed? What are the things that I notice about that, and what are the things that I have in my control that are going to move me in the right direction and not just continue to push me closer to the brink?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And then there are multiple paths out of that decision. Mine happened to be a board game, but others will be completely different, but that process, I think, is so important for people who find themselves doing our line of work because it is
Yeah.
so freaking common.
Yeah, I think like overall, like just trying to remove like some of the stressors is helping, and then like doing stuff outside of work as like I mean it's not entirely possible of like just doing other stuff, but yeah, I ordered new pizza flour today because
Oh, yes. Is it pizza season?
I think pizza season is about to start soon.
Yay.
It's not raining all the time anymore, so
Yeah, yeah.
probably go outside and make some pizza. So that's
Yeah,
my
totally.
way of dealing with this is like making pizza.
So healthy. Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Let's see what else. So I have moderate asthma,
Mhm.
and in the state of Colorado, we are at phase 1B something or other. And so people with a condition, moderate asthma being one of them, can sign up for a vaccine. Dude, I am scheduled for my first shot on Monday.
Wow, nice.
Ah, yeah,
That's
that's
exciting. I'm happy
crazy.
for you.
Wild. Yeah, I am very, 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 very surprised, to say the least, and utterly thrilled. So that's big news.
Yeah, that's big
Super
news
excited.
indeed.
Yep.
My girlfriend got her first shot a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I don't
Mhm.
quite remember because she's working in the lab and like medical stuff and stuff like that.
I was just about to say, like, I think in my head she would have gotten it, a couple months ago and being like, yeah, exactly, right.
uh,
Sheesh.
it's a nightmare. I'm so mad about all of this right
Mm,
now. I'm not sure
yeah,
if you hear anything about like how vaccinations are going in Europe right now, but it's a shit show.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Verge of a third wave, all
yeah,
that sorta,
and
yeah.
like yesterday they decided to stop like or pause vaccination with like AstraZeneca,
Yeah.
and that feels like it's so fucking stupid.
So that strikes me like an astronomically small percentage of blood clots,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
that's the that are ugh,
I mean,
I
I don't I
know,
I don't
I
want
know.
anyone to get blood clots and like die from like a stroke or whatever. That's definitely
Of
not what I
course.
want, but it feels like the odds of it are so incredibly small compared to all the other stuff.
Yes.
Like all the other stuff people are taking, like is probably has like side effects that are way more likely and maybe even as deadly or whatever. And
Mhm.
nobody even blinks. And with this, like suddenly we're
Mm,
like, okay, yeah, no, like not do any of it and like not continue.
yeah,
And like not
yeah,
even, I mean, in a way, before you get the shot, you have to sign a bunch of papers anyways that you're fully aware of like this could
any
kill you and
potential risks
whatever.
and unknown risks, etcetera. Yeah, yes.
So I feel like why stop it entirely? And not like keep going on like this and maybe like make that part of the waiver or whatever in bold and italics and whatever, and this could potentially happen. It happened like
Yeah,
6 time in a million or something like that.
right.
And if you're
Right.
not okay with that, then okay, fine, then you can
Do
skip
it.
on this. But like stopping it entirely feels like
Yeah.
stupid. So I'm a little bit
I
mad about all of this.
I I don't blame you at all. I mean, that's what's just so difficult about it's trying to extend some benefit of the doubt, um, and at the same time having extending a benefit of the doubt to the people who are pausing
Yeah.
the rollout, that they may have some data they are trying to make difficult decisions too, but it also feels like I mean, as a people, we have just failed at risk integration here
Yeah.
and have at times overreacted in either direction so many different times that like nobody's winning here. This is God, what the heck? Yeah.
Yeah,
It
like
just feels really maddening. It's hard to
yeah,
put into
yeah.
words.
I, I mean, granted, I'm not an expert on any of this. It's just like my outside opinion of like why this feels stupid. It might be the right choice and it might be the right call, but
Yeah.
it doesn't feel the right call for me, and kind of makes me
Yeah.
mad because honestly, like I've been joking that I will not get the vaccine for like until 2025 or something like that. Because like if you look at the
Right.
current rate, like vaccination rate in Germany, and seeing that I'm
Oh,
probably
you
like
won't get
not qualified like for anything,
yeah,
it will
yeah.
literally be like 2025. Like that's what the current trend looks like.
Well, yeah.
I
I mean,
hope it will speed up, but who
let's
knows?
say, it's hopefully it will. I mean, the US, as utterly incompetent as our handling of this whole pandemic has been, are, now up to like several million shots per day are happening. And I would have never thought that in the month of
Yeah,
December.
I'm
And
I'm
so,
pretty impressed. Yeah, that sounds like that part sounds like it's working super well.
and
And it
and
doesn't
that
work in Europe at all. At least that what it feels like.
oh, oh, well, I hope that things are able to turn the corner.
Yeah.
Wow, lengthy episode here.
Yeah,
Lots
for
of really good
sure.
stuff lots of great stuff to cover. But, yeah, I mean, I've got some year on the road stuff that I'll just save for next year or
Next
next
year.
week.
Okay.
See you in 2022. Hey, I didn't tell you we're actually leaving on Wednesday, and, I'm not gonna be doing the podcast for no. Yeah, no, I've got some stuff I'll share next week,
Sounds good. Yeah.
and hopefully pictures and stuff too, so
By the way,
cool. Yeah.
next week is MicroConf remote. Are you joining?
Yes, that's right. I'm planning on attending. Ruben Gamez is one of the speakers, and he's one of my favorite people to listen to.
Yeah, he's a
Um,
cool guy. But I'm also
uh,
honestly what I'm most excited about is the the platform they're running it on this time.
okay.
It's called gather.town, whatever. Like that's the domain. And it feels
Okay.
like one of those like Nintendo RPGs from back in the 90s. You have like
Oh, yeah.
your small
Yes.
avatar and you're like walking around meeting other people and talking to them. And it sounds like this will be so much fun. Like if it works,
Man, this looks like
this will
actual
be super fun.
oh, I'm so in. Oh, I'm so stoked. Okay, cool. Alright, microconf remote. See you there.
Yeah. We should it's
You have
probably
an
too
idea?
late to plan anything, but maybe we should have like plan the time and date for a small meetup
Yeah,
with listeners.
that would be
Maybe we can figure something out and announce it on Twitter or something like that.
yeah, let's do that. That'd be super cool.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. If you're listening and if that sounds fun as well, let us know on Twitter. Especially if you have ideas on how we could organize.
I think we should just like pick a time and date.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, totally.
Yeah, set up a corner in Gather Town and have some fun. Anyways,
Cool.
All
right.
It was nice catching up again. This was indeed a long one.
Yeah, it was. Good catching up then. All right. Talk soon.
See you. Have a nice week.